The distress beacon had been screaming into the void for 6 hours. On the agricultural world of Kishar 7, 2 million Kishari farmers watched the sky burn. Their planet sat in the outer reaches of the Velthari Dominion, a quiet world of golden fields and simple lives. They paid their taxes to the Galactic Concord. They followed every rule. They believed the promises of protection that came with membership. Now those promises meant nothing. 40 warships hung in orbit above their world. The Marauder Collective had arrived at dawn, their vessels blocking out the rising sun like metal clouds. Every Kashari knew the stories. The Marauders took what they wanted. They burned what remained, and nobody ever stopped them. Elder Tashin stood in the communications center of their capital city. His thin fingers worked the controls with desperate speed. Around him, younger Kashari monitored the incoming reports. Fires in the eastern provinces, landing craft touching down near the food processing centers, screams from the coastal settlements. "Still no response," said his assistant, her voice breaking. "We have broadcast on every emergency frequency. The Concord must hear us." "They hear us," Tashin said quietly. "The question is whether they care." Across the galaxy, in a chamber of crystal and light, the Galactic Concord Security Council had gathered. Representatives from 17 species sat in a great circle, their holographic images flickering as they debated the fate of a world most had never heard of. The Velthari High Minister spoke first. His tall frame and silver skin marked him as nobility among his kind. "This is a tragic situation. The Marauder Collective has long been a threat to Outer Rim worlds. However, our fleet is currently committed to exercises in the Synax corridor. We cannot divert resources at this time." "The Synax Collective shares this concern," added the crystalline ambassador, light refracting through her geometric body. "However, our resource allocation protocols do not permit intervention in non-member territorial disputes." "Kishar 7 is a member world," someone pointed out. "A minor member, with no strategic value." The Synax ambassador's tone carried no emotion. "Regrettable, but our assets are needed elsewhere." One by one, the great powers of the galaxy found reasons to look away. The aquatic Marath expressed deep concern, but cited treaty obligations that prevented action. The insectoid Vrex claimed their hive ships were undergoing seasonal maintenance. The ancient Dorvathi simply stated that this matter did not affect their interests. In a small seat near the edge of the chamber, Commander Alara Singh listened in silence. Singh had served as humanity's representative to the Concord for 3 years. In that time, she had learned how the galaxy truly worked. The powerful protected themselves. The weak survived by being useful or by being invisible. And when the weak became inconvenient, they were sacrificed with polite words and expressions of regret. Earth had joined the Concord 12 years ago, a newcomer species still learning to walk among the stars. Most of the older races viewed humans as curiosities at best, primitives at worst. Their fleet was small. Their territory was limited. Their voice in this chamber was barely heard, but Singh heard everything. "The motion to intervene fails," announced the council mediator, a being of pure energy who served as neutral arbiter. "The situation on Keshar 7 will be classified as a Category 3 incident. Monitoring will continue. No direct action will be taken." "You mean we will watch them die?" Singh said. The chamber fell quiet. Representatives turned to look at the human, as if surprised she could speak at all. "Commander Singh," the Velthari High Minister said with practiced patience, "you are new to galactic affairs. You do not understand the complexities involved. Resources are finite. Commitments must be honored. We cannot save everyone." "You cannot save anyone," Singh replied, "because you choose not to. This is the way of things. It has been the way of things for 10,000 years. Singh stood. Her uniform was simple. Her frame was small compared to the towering Velthari or the massive Morath. But something in her eyes made even the ancient Dorvathi pay attention. "When humanity first reached the stars," she said, "we hoped we would find something better out here. Civilizations that had learned from their mistakes. Species that protected the innocent because it was right, not because it was profitable." She looked around the chamber slowly. "We were wrong. Commander Singh, this is highly inappropriate. 2 million people are going to die. Or worse, they will be taken, sold, worked until they break. And every single one of you will go home tonight and sleep without guilt, because you followed your protocols, because you honored your commitments. Singh walked toward the exit. Because you convinced yourselves that this is civilization. Where are you going? The mediator asked. Singh paused at the door. To do what you will not. The Velthari High Minister laughed. With what? Your handful of frigates? Your 2 aging cruisers? Commander, humanity is a child playing at being a power. You have nothing that could challenge the Marauder Collective. Singh did not turn around. You do not know what we have. She walked out. Behind her, the representatives returned to their discussions, already forgetting the small world burning at the edge of known space, already moving on to matters that affected their interests. On Keshar 7, the situation was growing worse by the hour. Elder Tashin had ordered the population into the underground shelters, ancient tunnels carved during a forgotten war. But the shelters could not hold everyone, and the marauders were already sending ground forces to collect their prizes. The pirate king, Korath, watched the operation from his flagship with satisfaction. He was Velthari by birth, exiled for crimes too brutal even for his warlike people. He had built the Marauder Collective from nothing, gathering the violent and the desperate from 100 worlds. Now he commanded a fleet that even the great powers preferred to avoid. The harvest is proceeding well, his lieutenant reported. The population is mostly docile. We estimate full collection within 72 hours. Good. The slave markets on Thraxis are hungry. These Kashari will fetch good prices. Korath leaned back in his command chair. Any response from the Concord? Their official notice arrived an hour ago. They have classified this as a monitoring situation. No intervention is planned. Korath smiled. It was the same every time. The Concord talked. The Concord debated. The Concord watched. And meanwhile, he took what he wanted. What about the other signatures? I saw some unusual traffic in the sector. Nothing significant. A few merchant vessels fleeing the area. One human diplomatic ship departing for their territory. The lieutenant checked his sensors. Nothing that could challenge us. Humans, Korath snorted. I hear they believe they matter. Amusing creatures. Barely 12 years in the galaxy, and they think they have a voice. Should we be concerned about them? About what? Their fleet is a joke. 3 frigates and some patrol craft. Even their largest ship could not scratch our paint. Korath waved his hand dismissively. Focus on the collection. I want to be off this world before the Concord changes its mind about watching. Below in the tunnels of Keshar 7, the Keshari huddled in darkness and fear. Tashin moved among his people, offering what comfort he could. But there was little comfort to give. Help was not coming. They all knew it. A young Keshari child tugged at his robe. Her name was Nira, and she was barely 7 years old. Her eyes were wide with fear, but there was something else in them too. Hope, perhaps, or simply the innocence of youth. Elder Tashin, she said, will someone save us? Tashin looked at her and felt his heart break. He wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her that heroes would come, that justice would prevail, that the galaxy was good and kind, but he could not. I do not know, little one, he said. We have called for help, but the ones who should protect us, they have chosen not to come. Nira was silent for a moment. Then she said something that made Tashin pause. Maybe we called the wrong people. Before he could respond, a rumble shook the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling. The people cried out in fear, thinking the marauders had found them. But it was not the marauders. Far above, in the cold of space, something had just arrived. Something massive. Something that made every sensor on every ship in the system scream with alarm. On the bridge of his flagship, Korath stared at his displays with confusion. The readings made no sense. No ship could be that large. No vessel could carry that much mass through fold space. What is that? He demanded. His sensor officer's voice shook. Unknown signature. Origin. Earth. Earth? That is impossible. Humans have nothing that could... The communication system crackled. A new voice filled the bridge. It was calm, steady, human. This is the Earth vessel Prometheus to all Marauder forces. You have attacked a civilian population under Galactic Concord protection. You have 1 hour to withdraw all forces from Kashar 7 and release all prisoners. Korath found his voice. Who do you think you are? One ship against 40? You are either brave or insane. The voice did not waver. There will be no second warning. The transmission ended. Korath stared at the sensor display showing the impossible mass now moving toward his fleet. For the first time in many years, he felt something cold in his stomach. It felt like fear. In the shelters below, young Nira looked up through a crack in the stone. She could not see the stars, but she felt something change. The fear in the air shifted. It became something else. It became hope. The wrong people had not come. But maybe, just maybe, the right ones had. 18 hours earlier, Commander Alara Singh's transmission had reached Earth's nearest naval station. Admiral James Okonkwo was 57 years old. He had served in Earth's defense fleet since its formation, rising through ranks that barely existed when he started. He remembered the early days, when humanity had looked up at the stars with wonder and fear. He remembered first contact with the Velthari, how they had smiled with cold politeness and explained how the galaxy worked. He remembered the lessons humanity had learned. Now he sat in his office at the Orc Cloud Naval Yards, watching Singh's message play for the third time. Her face was tired. Her voice was steady. But there was something burning in her eyes that he recognized. It was the same thing he felt every time he heard about another world left to burn by the Concorde's elegant inaction. They will not help, Singh said on the recording. 2 million people, and they voted to watch them die. Earth cannot let this stand. We have to do something. Okonkwo turned off the display. He walked to his window and looked out at the darkness of space. From here, he could see the construction yards stretching into the void. Massive frameworks where humanity had been building ships for over a decade. Ships the galaxy did not know existed. When Earth first joined the Galactic Concorde, humanity had been naive. They believed the promises of mutual protection. They trusted the treaties and agreements. They thought that being part of something greater meant being safe. It took only 2 years to learn the truth. The Concorde was not a family. It was a business arrangement. The powerful protected themselves. Everyone else survived by not being worth attacking. And when a species proved to be inconvenient, the Concorde found reasons to look away. Earth's leaders had made a decision then. They would smile. They would follow the rules. They would pretend to be the harmless newcomers everyone expected. But in secret, in the cold darkness at the edge of their solar system, they would prepare for the day when the Concorde's protection failed. That day had come. Okonkwo activated his communication system. "Get me the Prometheus." The response came quickly. "Admiral, the Prometheus is at full standby. All systems are operational. Captain Chen is awaiting your orders. Tell him to prepare for deployment. Full combat readiness. I will be there within the hour." There was a pause. "Sir, if we deploy the Prometheus, the Concorde will know. Everything we have hidden for 8 years, I know what it means." Okonkwo's voice was quiet but firm. "But there are 2 million people waiting to be saved. And we made a promise, Lieutenant. Not to the Concorde, to ourselves." The naval shuttle carried him through the construction yards, past the frigates and cruisers that the galaxy knew about. These were decent ships, built to match what Earth was expected to have. Good enough to defend against pirates. Not enough to challenge any major power. They were not humanity's true fleet. Beyond the public yards, hidden among the ice and rock of the outer system, was something else. Something that had consumed the secret resources of an entire planet for nearly a decade. The Prometheus filled the viewport like a small moon, 4 kilometers from bow to stern, a hull of layered armor measuring hundreds of meters thick, weapon systems that covered every angle of approach, and at its heart, fusion cores powerful enough to light a city for 1,000 years. Earth had looked at how the galaxy built ships, elegant, efficient, designed for speed and precision. Then Earth had remembered its own history, the battleships, the carriers, the weapons of total war that humanity had created long before reaching the stars. The Prometheus was not elegant. It was brutal. It was a machine built by a species that had spent its entire existence perfecting the art of survival through superior violence. Captain Maria Chen met Okonkwo at the boarding ramp. She was 40 years old, had commanded frigates in 3 sectors, and had been chosen for this assignment because she was the best tactical mind in the fleet. She had spent 6 years training with a ship she hoped would never be needed. "Admiral," she said, saluting, "the ship is ready. But I need to ask, are we really doing this?" "We are. The Conquered will not forgive us. Revealing the Prometheus means revealing everything. The secret shipyards, the weapons programs, every lie we have told for 12 years. Okonkwo nodded. "I know, and I have thought about this every day since we started building her. What is the point of having power if we never use it? What is the point of hiding our strength if we let innocent people die to keep our secrets?" Chen considered this. "The crew feels the same. I asked them an hour ago. Voluntary mission only. Anyone who wanted to stay behind could do so without shame." She smiled slightly. "No one stayed behind." They walked through the corridors of the massive ship. Crew members moved with purpose, checking systems, loading supplies, preparing for a mission they had trained for but never expected to perform. The ship hummed with contained energy, like a sleeping beast beginning to wake. The bridge of the Prometheus was a cathedral of screens and controls. Officers sat at stations designed for the most advanced combat operations humanity could imagine. And at the center, mounted in a column of light, was Guardian. Guardian was the ship's artificial intelligence, a system so advanced that its existence was itself a secret. It managed thousands of operations simultaneously, coordinated weapon systems faster than human reflexes allowed, and provided tactical analysis that bordered on prediction. "Admiral Okonkwo," Guardian said, its voice calm and precise, "I have reviewed the situation on Kesher 7. Current Marauder forces consist of 40 combat vessels, approximately 12,000 ground troops, and standard suppression equipment. Based on their known tactics, full population capture will be complete within 68 hours. How long to reach Keshar 7? At maximum fold space velocity, 18 hours and 23 minutes. And if we engage the Marauder fleet? Probability of successful engagement with zero friendly casualties, 94.7%. The remaining probability accounts for unknown variables and potential enemy reinforcements." Okonkwo looked at Chen. "Those are good odds." "Those are excellent odds." Chen moved to her command chair. "But the Admiral is right about one thing. The moment we arrive, everything changes. The galaxy will know what humanity is capable of. Some will fear us. Some will hate us. Some might try to destroy us before we become a greater threat. And some," Okonkwo said, "will finally understand that there is another way. That power can be used to protect, not just to dominate, that the weak do not have to be abandoned." He sat in the observer's seat beside her. "Set course for Kesher 7, maximum velocity." The Prometheus shuddered as its drives came online. Power levels that would have strained an entire conquered battle group flowed through its systems like blood through veins. In the shipyards around them, workers stopped to watch as the great vessel began to move. Most of them had spent years building this ship without knowing its purpose. Now they understood. They were not building a weapon of conquest. They were building a promise. The fold space generators activated, bending reality around the massive hull. Stars stretched and twisted as the Prometheus slipped between the folds of normal space. In seconds it was gone, leaving behind only the echoes of its departure. On Earth, in secure bunkers far beneath the surface, the leaders of humanity watched their greatest secret fly toward an uncertain future. Some were afraid. Some were proud. All of them knew that nothing would ever be the same. In the Galactic Concord chambers, the Veltari High Minister was finishing a meal when a subordinate interrupted him with a report. Something unusual had been detected leaving human space. Something very large moving very fast. "Probably a cargo vessel," the minister said dismissively. "Humans are always moving things around. They are a restless species." "Yes, Minister, but the mass readings are unusual." "How unusual?" The subordinate checked the data again, certain there had to be an error. "Approximately equivalent to a small planetoid, Minister, moving at fold space velocities toward the outer rim." The minister paused. Then he laughed. "Impossible. Human technology cannot produce such readings. It must be sensor error. Ignore it." The subordinate bowed and left. The minister returned to his meal, confident in his understanding of the galaxy. Humans were primitives. They had nothing that mattered. They were not worth watching. 18 hours later, he would remember this moment and wish he had paid attention. In the darkness between stars, the Prometheus hurtled toward destiny. Its crew worked in focused silence, checking weapons, reviewing battle plans, preparing for combat against an enemy that outnumbered them 40 to 1. None of them were afraid. They were humanity. They came from a world of predators and disasters, a planet so harsh that merely surviving there was considered remarkable. Their ancestors had faced extinction a dozen times and refused to die. They had built civilizations, torn them down, and built them again. And now they were bringing that legacy to the stars, not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as protectors, as the answer to a prayer that the galaxy had ignored. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge as the ship approached the Kashar system. In a few hours, everything would change. The secret would be revealed. The deception would end. Humanity would show the galaxy what it truly was. He hoped they were ready. He knew they had no choice. 2 million people were waiting. And unlike the Concorde, humanity had decided to answer. The Marauders had been working for 16 hours without rest. On the surface of Kashar 7, landing craft moved between burning cities and collection points. The Kashari were being sorted like grain at harvest time. The young and healthy went to holding pens for the slave markets. The old and sick went elsewhere. The Marauders did not waste resources on those who could not be sold. Korath watched the operation from his flagship with growing satisfaction. His sensors showed no incoming vessels. The Concorde had confirmed non-intervention. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. Collection rate is ahead of schedule, his lieutenant reported. We have secured approximately 400,000 subjects. Ground forces are expanding to the southern continent. Excellent. Increase extraction speed. I want to be gone within 48 hours. The population is becoming more resistant. Some settlements are barricading themselves. Korath waved his hand dismissively. Then burn the barricades. They will learn quickly enough that resistance only brings more pain. Below, in the underground shelters, the Kashari listened to the distant sounds of destruction. The screams had stopped hours ago, replaced by the steady mechanical noise of collection vehicles moving across the surface. It was almost worse. At least screams meant someone was still fighting. Elder Tashin had organized the shelters as best he could. Water was rationed. The injured were treated with what little medicine they had. Children were kept together, watched by the elders while their parents planned desperate defenses that everyone knew would fail. Young Nira sat in a corner, drawing pictures on the stone floor with a piece of chalk. She had been doing this since the attack began, lost in her own world while the real world burned above her. Tashin did not have the heart to stop her. He looked at what she was drawing: ships, stars, and one very large vessel surrounded by smaller ones. "What is that, little one?" he asked. "The ones who are coming," she said simply. Before Tashin could respond, one of his lieutenants rushed over. "Elder, our communications equipment has detected something strange. A massive energy signature just appeared at the edge of the system." "Marauder reinforcements?" "No. The signature does not match any known configuration. It is something new." In orbit, Korath was receiving the same reports with far less calm. Every sensor on his flagship was screaming alerts. The readings made no sense. Something had dropped out of fold space at the system's edge, and the energy signature was larger than anything in the Marauder database, larger than anything in the Concorde database, larger than the flagship of the Velthari Imperial Fleet. "What is it?" Korath demanded, staring at his displays. "Identify the vessel." "Attempting to identify now, sir. The mass readings indicate a ship approximately 4 kilometers in length. Power output exceeds our sensor's maximum recording capacity." 4 kilometers? No species builds ships that large. It would be impractical, wasteful. "The vessel is broadcasting identification, sir." The communications officer looked up from his station with confusion. "It claims to be human." Korath's expression shifted from confusion to amusement. "Human? The primitives from that death world? They do not have ships larger than cruisers. This must be a trick, some kind of sensor decoy." "Sir, the visual feeds are coming through now." The main display flickered, then stabilized, and Karath saw the Prometheus for the first time. It was not elegant like Concorde vessels. It did not flow or curve or speak of refined engineering. It was a brutal thing, all angles and armor and weapons emplacements that covered its hull like scales on a predator. It moved through space with the slow, purposeful momentum of something that had never needed to run from anything. "By the empty stars," someone whispered. The communication system activated. A calm human voice filled the bridge. It belonged to Admiral Okonkwo, though Karath did not know that yet. "This is the Earth vessel Prometheus to all Marauder forces. You have attacked a civilian population under Galactic Concorde protection. You have 1 hour to withdraw all forces from Kesher 7 and release all prisoners. There will be no second warning." Korath found his voice. "Human vessel, you are outnumbered 40-1. You have no authority here. The Concorde has officially declared non-intervention. Whatever you think you are doing, it is pointless. 47 minutes remaining. This is insane. You cannot threaten my fleet with one ship. Even if your vessel is as large as our sensors suggest, you cannot possibly fight all of us." There was no response. The communication ended. The massive ship continued its slow approach toward the planet. Korath stared at the display for a long moment. His mind worked through possibilities. This had to be a bluff. Humans were known for bluffing. They talked big because they had nothing else. Their technology was decades behind the major powers. Their fleet was laughable. But that ship, that impossible ship. "Sir," his lieutenant said carefully, "should we consider withdrawing?" "No." Korath's pride would not allow it. He had built his reputation on never backing down. His entire fleet was watching. The Marauder Collective only followed strength, and any sign of fear would be the beginning of his end. "This is a trick. Humans are clever with their technology. They have built something large and impressive, but it cannot possibly match our firepower. We have 40 warships." "Then your orders?" "Form up the fleet. Defensive screen around the collection ships. When the human vessel comes into range, we destroy it. Then we finish our work here and leave." The Marauder fleet began to move. Ships that had been scattered across the system gathered into formation. Weapons charged. Shields powered up. Whatever the humans had brought, the Marauders would face it together. On the Prometheus, Admiral Okonkwo watched the enemy formation with calm interest. Captain Chen stood beside him, reviewing tactical displays that Guardian updated in real time. "They are not withdrawing," Chen observed. "I did not expect them to." Okonkwo had studied Marauder psychology. He understood the Pirate King's position. Korath cannot show weakness. His entire empire is built on fear. If he runs from one ship, his captains will wonder if he can be trusted. Some might decide to take his place. So he will fight. He will try. Okonkwo looked at the formation. 40 ships, 12,000 warriors, a force that had terrorized the Outer Rim for years. "Guardian, analysis. Enemy formation is standard defensive screen. Heavy cruisers forward, support vessels in secondary positions. Command ship protected at center. Estimated time to engagement range, 32 minutes. Weapon status? All primary and secondary systems are fully operational. Railgun batteries report optimal charge levels. Point defense grid is active. Shield generators are at maximum capacity." Chen studied the tactical display. "They outnumber us significantly. If they coordinate their attack properly, they could potentially overwhelm our defenses through sheer volume of fire." "They will not coordinate properly," Guardian said. "Marauder collective vessels operate with significant independence. Their commanders are rivals as much as allies. Analysis of previous engagements suggests they will attack individually or in small groups, seeking personal glory." "Pride before tactics," Okonkwo said. "A common flaw. A human flaw as well, historically speaking. Yes, which is why we learned to overcome it." Okonkwo straightened in his seat. "All hands battle stations. We give them their hour. If they do not withdraw, we engage." Throughout the massive ship, the crew prepared for combat. Weapons officers ran final checks on systems that had never been fired in anger. Shield technicians monitored power flows. Marines checked their armor and weapons, ready for boarding operations if needed. In the medical bay, doctors prepared for casualties they hoped would not come. In the engine rooms, engineers watched the fusion cores with careful attention. In the fighter bays, pilots sat in cockpits that had only seen simulation combat. Everyone knew what was at stake. Not just the lives on Kashar 7, not just the secret of Earth's true power, but the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. This battle would define how the stars remembered them. The hour passed slowly. On Kashar 7, the Kashari watched the sky through whatever gaps they could find. Rumors spread through the shelters. Something had arrived. Something that made the Marauders nervous. Something that spoke for Earth. Young Nira continued her drawing. She had added details now. The large ship in her picture had human figures standing on it. Small figures, but they seemed bigger than the stars around them. "What are they doing?" Tashin asked her. "Waiting," she said. "They always wait. They give the bad ones a chance to run, but the bad ones never run." "How do you know this?" Nira looked up at him with eyes that seemed too old for her young face. "Because that is what I would do." Above them, the hour ended. Korath's voice filled the communication channels. "Human vessel, your deadline has passed. You have chosen to stand against the Marauder Collective. This was a mistake." Admiral Okonkwo's response was simple. "Begin." The Prometheus accelerated, not fast enough to suggest fear or desperation, slow and steady, like a predator that knew its prey could not escape. Its weapon systems activated, filling nearby space with targeting solutions and power readings that made Marauder sensors scream with warnings. The Battle of Kishar 7 had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The first Marauder ships attacked in a rush of fire and fury. 3 heavy cruisers broke from formation, their captains eager to claim the glory of destroying the human intruder. Their weapons blazed as they closed the distance, filling space with plasma bolts and missile swarms that would have shredded any normal vessel. The Prometheus did not dodge. It did not weave. It simply absorbed the assault. Its armor, hundreds of meters thick and layered with materials the Concorde had never seen, took the incoming fire like stone taking rain. Energy weapons splashed against shields that barely flickered. Missiles detonated against the hull and left nothing but scorch marks that automated systems were already cleaning. "Incoming damage assessment," Guardian reported calmly. "Negligible. Shield capacity reduced by 0.3%. Hull integrity remains at 100%. On the Marauder flagship, Korath watched his sensors with growing disbelief. His cruisers were pouring everything they had into the human ship, and it was not even slowing down. "Increase fire rate," he ordered. "All forward vessels, concentrate on the target." More ships joined the attack. 10 vessels now hammered the Prometheus with everything they had. The space around the human ship became a storm of weapons fire, so intense that sensors had difficulty tracking individual impacts. The Prometheus continued forward, untouched, untroubled, unafraid. Then it fired back. Humanity had looked at how the galaxy fought wars. Energy weapons designed for efficiency, missiles built for precision, ships that danced around each other, trading shots in elegant ballets of destruction. Humans had decided on a different approach. The railgun batteries of the Prometheus operated on principles that galactic engineers considered inefficient. They accelerated physical projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. Not elegant, not subtle, but when a chunk of metal moving at relativistic velocity hit a target, elegance became irrelevant. The first salvo punched through 3 Marauder cruisers simultaneously. The projectiles did not stop at the first hull. They tore through armor, reactors, and crew compartments, exiting the other side before the ships even knew they had been hit. For a moment, the 3 cruisers hung in space, seemingly intact. Then secondary explosions rippled through their damaged systems. Then they came apart, breaking into fragments that scattered across the void. Silence fell over the Marauder fleet. 3 vessels destroyed, Korath's sensor officer reported, his voice shaking. Single volley. Time between firing and impact, 0.8 seconds. "That is impossible," Korath said, but he was watching his display. He had seen it happen. The Prometheus fired again. This time it did not target just a few ships. Its batteries spoke in coordinated salvos, each projectile calculated by Guardian for maximum effect. Marauder vessels tried to evade, but the projectiles moved too fast. They tried to shield, but no shield in their fleet could stop relativistic mass. Ship after ship died. Heavy cruisers, light destroyers, support vessels that tried to flee. The Prometheus hunted them all with mechanical precision, never wasting a shot, never showing mercy to those who continued to fight. "We have to retreat," the lieutenant shouted over the chaos of alarms and damage reports. "Sir, we cannot win this. We have to run." Korath stared at the destruction of his fleet. 20 years of building, thousands of warriors, a reputation that had made even the Concorde pause, all of it dying in minutes. "Retreat," he ordered, the word tasting like poison. "All ships, retreat to rally point 7. Now!" But retreat was not simple. The Prometheus had positioned itself between the Marauder fleet and the planet. Any ship that tried to flee toward Kashar 7 was destroyed instantly. Any ship that tried to circle around was caught and disabled. The human vessel was not just fighting, it was corralling. It was forcing the Marauders to choose between death and departure. Some captains chose death. Pride or desperation drove them to charge the human ship, hoping to find weakness in close combat. They found none. Point defense systems shredded incoming missiles. Close-range railgun bursts tore through hulls at distances measured in kilometers. The Prometheus seemed to have eyes in every direction, weapons for every threat. Others chose departure. Ships that turned away from the planet, that clearly abandoned the fight, were allowed to flee. Damaged but alive. Beaten but not destroyed. Admiral Okonkwo watched the battle unfold on his tactical display. His voice was calm as he gave orders, but Chen could see something in his eyes. Not joy at the killing, something more like sadness. "They could have left," he said quietly. "We gave them a chance." "They are marauders, Admiral. They chose their path long ago." "Yes, but they are still living beings. Each of those ships has a crew. Each crew member has a story." Okonkwo shook his head slowly. "We do what we must, but we should never forget what it costs." The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it was over, 22 Marauder ships had been destroyed. 18 more drifted in space, disabled but intact. Their crews were alive, though they would need rescue. Their weapons were dead, though their life support still functioned. The Prometheus had taken no significant damage. Its shields had absorbed thousands of impacts. Its armor showed scratches that would be repaired within hours. Not a single crew member had been injured. Korath's flagship was among the disabled vessels. The Pirate King sat on a powerless bridge, surrounded by officers who looked at him with eyes that held no more loyalty. His empire was shattered. His reputation was ash. "Human vessel," he transmitted on emergency frequencies. "We surrender, unconditionally. Please spare my crew." The response came after a long pause. "Prepare for boarding. You will be taken into custody and held for trial. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force." "Trial? For what?" "Crimes against sentient beings, slavery, murder, destruction of civilian populations. The list is long, Korath. You will have time to review it." Marines from the Prometheus boarded the flagship in precise, organized teams. They moved through the corridors with weapons ready but not firing. Marauder survivors who surrendered were restrained gently. Those who fought were subdued with minimal casualties. Korath expected execution. He expected torture. He expected the kind of treatment he had given to so many others. Instead, a human Marine simply bound his hands and read him a list of rights. He would be held safely. He would be given access to representation. He would face judgment according to human law. "Why?" Korath asked, confused. "Why do this? You could kill me. You have every reason to kill me." The Marine looked at him with eyes that held no hatred. "Because we are not you." On the surface of Kishar 7, the Marauder ground forces received word of their fleet's destruction. Some tried to fight. They were neutralized by precision strikes from orbit that destroyed their vehicles and weapons without harming the Kashari prisoners. Others surrendered immediately, understanding that resistance was hopeless. Human shuttles began landing within hours. They carried not warriors, but medics, engineers, relief supplies, teams trained for disaster response rather than combat. The Kashari emerged from their shelters slowly, uncertain what they would find. They found humans in simple uniforms, offering water and medical care. They found damaged buildings being stabilized. They found their families being reunited. Elder Tashin stood in the ruins of his capital city and watched humans work to save what remained. One of them, a young woman with tired eyes, approached him. Elder Tashin, I am Dr. Sarah Martinez. We are here to help. Please tell us what your people need. Tashin found that he could not speak. The words would not come. After everything that had happened, after the abandonment and the terror and the certainty that his people would die alone, he could not process this simple offer of assistance. We came as fast as we could, Dr. Martinez said gently. I am sorry it was not faster. You came, Tashin finally managed. No one else came, but you came. Yes, we did. Young Nira appeared from somewhere in the crowd. She ran to Tashin, then stopped, looking up at the human woman with wide eyes. Are you the protectors? She asked. Dr. Martinez knelt down to meet her gaze. We try to be. Nira reached into her pocket and pulled out her chalk drawing, now crumpled and smeared. She handed it to the human carefully, as if presenting a treasure. It showed the Prometheus surrounded by stars, and around it, small figures with their hands raised, not in surrender, in welcome. Dr. Martinez looked at the drawing for a long moment. Then she smiled. We will try to live up to this, she said. Above them, the Prometheus held position in orbit. Its guns were silent now. Its work was done. But everyone who looked up at the sky knew what it represented. Not conquest, not domination, not the rule of the strong over the weak. Something else. Something the galaxy had forgotten was possible. Hope. The Galactic Concord Security Council had never been so full. Representatives from every member species crowded the Great Chamber. Those who could not attend in person watched through holographic links. News outlets from 100 worlds broadcast the proceedings live. The entire galaxy was watching. At the center of it all, Admiral James Okonkwo stood alone. He wore his dress uniform, simple and unadorned. He carried no weapons. He needed none. Behind him, displayed on the chamber's great screens, the Prometheus held its silent vigil over Kashar 7. A constant reminder of what had happened, of what humanity was capable of. The Velthari High Minister opened the session with barely contained fury. We are here to address the unauthorized military action conducted by the Earth government. An action that violated 17 articles of the Concord Charter. An action that exposed capabilities hidden from this body for over a decade. An action that threatens the stability of the entire galaxy. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Species that had barely noticed humanity suddenly had many opinions about Earth. The construction of the vessel designated Prometheus alone represents a violation of arms limitation agreements. The deployment of weapon systems not registered with the Concord is a treaty breach. The unilateral intervention in the Kashar 7 crisis undermines the authority of this council. The minister paused, looking directly at Okonkwo. Earth will explain itself, and Earth will face consequences. Okonkwo waited until the chamber fell silent. Then he spoke. I will explain, but first I would like the council to listen to something. He nodded to an aide who activated a recording. The chamber filled with the sounds of distress calls, desperate voices in dozens of languages, Kashari begging for help, screaming as the marauders collected their victims, the raw, unfiltered horror of a world being harvested. Some representatives looked away, others closed their eyes. A few seemed entirely unaffected. This is what was happening while this council debated, Okonkwo said. While the Velthari claimed their fleet was busy, while the Synax cited resource allocation, while every major power in this galaxy found reasons to look away. This is not relevant to the charges, the minister began. It is entirely relevant. Okonkwo's voice remained calm, but it carried the weight of something deeper. You are angry because we lied to you, because we built something you did not expect, because we acted when you told us not to. But you are not angry that 2 million people almost died. You are not angry that your systems of protection failed. You are angry that humans revealed how worthless those systems truly are. The chamber erupted. Accusations flew back and forth. Species that had ignored the crisis now loudly condemned humanity for solving it. Species that had done nothing demanded explanations from those who had acted. Okonkwo waited. When the noise died down, he continued, "For 12 years, humanity has been a member of this Concord. For 12 years, we have watched how you operate. We have seen worlds burn while committees debated. We have seen species enslaved while representatives expressed concern. We have seen the powerful take what they want while the weak die hoping someone will notice." He looked around the chamber slowly. "We told ourselves we were building the Prometheus for defense, to protect Earth from threats that the Concord could not or would not stop. But that was only half the truth. The other half? We built it because someone had to. Someone had to be willing to answer when the calls for help went ignored. Someone had to show that power can be used for more than self-interest." The Synax ambassador spoke, her crystalline voice sharp. "You have revealed yourselves as a military threat. How can any species trust Earth now? How do we know you will not use this power against us?" "You do not know." Okonkwo's answer surprised them. "You have no guarantee except our actions. We could have conquered Kashar 7 ourselves. We could have installed a human government, claimed resources, expanded our territory. Instead, we saved the population and asked for nothing in return. A single action does not. No, a single action proves nothing. But it is a beginning." Okonkwo stepped forward, addressing the entire chamber. "Humanity is offering a choice, not to this council, to every world in this galaxy, every species that has lived in fear, every population that has wondered if anyone would come when they called for help." He activated another display. It showed a simple document with Earth's official seal. Effective immediately, Earth is establishing the Humanitarian Response Initiative. Any world facing a threat to its civilian population may call upon this program. We will respond, not with politics, not with debates, with action. "You cannot simply," the Velthari minister started. "We can. We are. The Prometheus is the first ship of what will become a dedicated fleet. We will train crews. We will build infrastructure. We will create what this galaxy claims to have but has never truly possessed. A force that protects the innocent regardless of their strategic value. This is madness. The disruption to existing alliances. The existing alliances have failed." Okonkwo's voice hardened. "Kashar 7 is proof. How many other worlds have died while this council monitored the situation? How many more will die if nothing changes?" The chamber fell silent. "You can sanction us," Okonkwo continued. "You can condemn us. You can try to destroy us. But I warn you, the Prometheus is not our only ship, and more are coming. Humanity spent millennia learning to survive on a world that tried to kill us every day. We have become very good at fighting, but we have also learned something else, something precious. And what is that? That the measure of strength is not what you take, it is what you protect." The vote on sanctions came 3 hours later. It failed. Not by much. The great powers voted against Earth. But the smaller species, the ones who had always lived in fear, the ones who had always wondered if anyone would come, they abstained. Some even voted no. For the first time, the powerless realized they were not alone. 3 months later, the Prometheus remained in orbit over Kashar 7. The reconstruction was proceeding well. Human engineers worked alongside Kashari builders. Human teachers helped establish new schools. Human doctors treated injuries that would have been fatal without intervention. Elder Tashan walked through his rebuilt capital city with Commander Elara Singh at his side. She had returned as Earth's formal ambassador to Kashar 7, a position that had not existed before because no one had thought the planet mattered. "The Council continues to debate our status," Singh said. "Some want to remove us from the Concord entirely. Others want to limit our fleet. Others want to pretend nothing happened. And Earth? Earth continues to build ships and to answer calls." Singh smiled slightly. "We received 4 requests for assistance last month alone. Minor crises by galactic standards. Disputes that the Concord would have ignored. And you resolved them?" "We tried. Sometimes talking is enough. Sometimes presence is enough. And sometimes," she looked up at the Prometheus hanging in the sky, "sometimes teeth are required." Tashin nodded slowly. "When the Marauders came, I told my people that the galaxy had forgotten us, that we would die alone, that no one cared about a small world with no strategic value. You were almost right. Almost, but not entirely. And that makes all the difference. He stopped walking and turned to face her. The Concord sees your Prometheus as a threat. They fear what humanity might become, but they do not see what we see. What do you see? A promise, a reminder that power does not have to mean domination, that strength can be used to lift up rather than tear down. He gestured at the city around them, at the Kashari children playing in rebuilt streets, at the human and Kashari workers sharing meals together. This is what happens when someone answers the call. In the great chamber of the Concord, debates continued. Accusations flew. Alliances shifted. The galaxy tried to understand what Earth had done and what it meant for the future. But on Kashar 7, young Nira sat in her new classroom and drew pictures. She drew the Prometheus, as she always did. But now she added something new. Other ships, different shapes, different species, all of them moving together through the stars. Her teacher, a human woman named Dr. Martinez, looked at the drawing. What are all these ships? The ones who will come, Nira said. Not just humans, everyone, because they will see what can happen when you answer. How do you know? Nira smiled. It was a child's smile, full of innocence and hope. But there was wisdom in it too. Because someone had to go first, now the others will follow. Above the planet, the Prometheus began to move. There was another call coming in, another world in need, another chance to prove that the galaxy could be better than it had been. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge, watching the stars wheel past. Captain Chen entered coordinates for their next destination. Guardian calculated optimal routes and prepared systems for action. They thought no one would come. They thought the galaxy had rules that could not be broken. They thought that power only served those who held it. They forgot about humanity, and humanity would never let them forget again.